All right. There we go. Try to get centered. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mia Hall TV, and welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Glow Live, where we talk about how to go from where you are to where you want to be, living to your fullest potential. This week, I'm continuing a series from my book, Glow Girl, and it is on chapter 7, right? So, Glow Girl is empowering teenage girls to grow, lead, overcome, and win. And today we are going through first generation flame. If you are a first generation college student, college graduate, then you're going to want to stay tuned. All right. So, in the book, right, part 3 is about overcoming. So, there's part 3 right here. Shout out to Bobby Yay Yay Jones. Um, and this is talking about first generation flame. So I talk about how my grandmother, she didn't finish school. She went to Far Rockaway High School, but she wasn't able to finish. And she actually just inspired me to read a lot of books, to do a lot of things, and to, of course, write this book, but of course, to go to college, right? So, my aunt went to college, but didn't finish. My mom went to college, didn't finish. My dad went to college, but didn't finish. So, I was the first in my immediate family that saw somebody finish college. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that it was a part of my book. Nobody pulled me to the side and say, hey, if nobody went to college, like, this is what you do. But some people, my teacher, my advisor, Miss Valentine, she made sure that I was filling out those applications, that I was doing what I had to do in order to get all my applications in and get to school. So that's who I shout out in this chapter. I also talk about how um, until 1867, it was illegal for enslaved and sometimes free Black Americans to read or write. So we have to think about it. There could still be first generation college students because it was illegal. Okay. In 1867, now through 1867, they say they have a number of like 20,000 people like died in the fight to help even just people, Black people being able to read and write. So we still got some first generation college students because we had generations who they didn't even want us to read or write. All right. So there you have it for that. So I, of course, recognize that that is the truth. And of course, wanted to overcome that, and go to school to get my education, but also because I had a passion for education, right? So it wasn't just, oh, to get a degree, because there's plenty of people out here without degrees that are making a lot more money than me. So for me, it wasn't about, being able to make more, though on average, historically, those who do go to college, on average make more over time, but it's just that they get salaried jobs, because there's plenty of entrepreneurs that never went to school and are making millions and are millionaires. So I'm not saying that to discourage you from going to school or not going to school. I'm just saying that that is what's out there. But there is something for everybody, and education doesn't just take place in the classroom. Education, especially now when you have access to so much, of course, that you have to fact check, but you have access to so much, that you can get an education outside of the classroom. You can probably teach yourself a lot. And a lot of learning comes through failure. A lot of learning comes through lived experience and, of course, execution, doing things that you want to do. So I remember the first time that I went on a college campus was with my dad, who is in, a lot of my videos, but my dad went to Hunter College. He actually was on the track team. He was 27 when he went to school, and he had me when he was 19. So I was about 8 when I was going up to the city, Manhattan. Me and my podcast client were just talking about that yesterday, but I was going from Brooklyn to Manhattan to go to Hunter College. Me, my god sisters, and everybody else that my dad took out. So we would go up there, and that's how I saw the dorms. That was the first time I saw dorms, things like that, like in person. Also, I would say influences on me going to school were the I was faithful to watching um, A Different World, right? And I'm so glad that they're coming out with a second A Different World. Hope to get on that show. So I will put this clip, next to a clip of me being on the show. So yeah, so want to get on that show one day. But either way, because they're filming in Atlanta, and they were literally doing a casting call. Anyway, so I used to watch that show. I watched School Days, of course, a powerful movie. Made me, want to, yeah, go to a HBCU. But I didn't really know like that much about it. Nobody really taught me that much about it. My mom went to Morgan State, but she came home like after her first semester because she had me. And so I really didn't get to learn much about HBCUs until I went on a college tour, like my senior year in college. Of course, like I said, I learned what I knew from TV, but it's like they're on TV. Like, how real is that? But then when I was able to go on the college tour and see actual people, man, it was amazing. And so then I talk about, of course, that you can use everything that you've learned so far, whether you grew up in the projects. I grew up in the projects, so I can say that. Whether you grew up in the suburbs, whether you grew up in a townhouse or in, what I mean, like a shelter, who knows. But you can learn, I mean, you can use all of those experiences in your next step, right? So I learned how to take advantage of free resources, right? Not even take advantage of them, but to use free resources, to use what I have in order to get what I want. So that's one of the tips I give. Another tip: surround yourself with mentors who can guide you. January is National Mentoring Month. Shout out to everybody who mentored me, but surround yourself. These are tips for first generation college students. Surround yourself with mentors who can guide you through experiences your family might not have had, and recognize that both you and your family possess unique skill sets that will serve you in school and beyond. Like, I love when Dr. Eric Thomas talks about, people in like potentially like hostile environments. He might have said the hood have deductive reasoning. So we know if you're on the corner and you see everybody running, what are we gonna do? We are gonna run too. We're not gonna sit there and think about it. Oh, what's happening? No, 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 no. We are gonna run as well. That's deductive. We deduct, right? And we have the reasoning that something is wrong and we need to move. So it'll just be things, street smarts and being able to be aware of our surroundings, things that you need in order to succeed. Yeah, I didn't know I was a rapper. All right, so I remember spending countless hours in my college counselor, Miss Valentine's office. I talk about that and how I worked in the after school program during my, thankfully, during my time as I guess it was called a counselor. I was a counselor at MS 135 in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. And so when I was there, 4 men were also working in this program. It was a small after school program. Maybe there could have been like 20 employees, but like 3 of them that worked with me directly and one that worked with another team had just graduated from Hampton. So, and I literally met the first person that I knew that graduated from Hampton like the summer before my senior year. So, summer before my senior year, I met somebody that went to Hampton. She was telling me about it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. Then get to the job. 4 guys are talking about Hampton, like, oh, well, we know where you're going to go to school. Like, I was a senior and I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go to school. I was thinking about Temple. I was thinking about what HBCU was I thinking about? Clark Atlanta. I don't know why I was thinking about Clark Atlanta because I applied. I tell you, I applied to Clark Atlanta, Temple, a SUNY school. I think it could have been, I don't remember the SUNY school, and Hampton. Those were like the 4 schools that I applied to. And of course, my coworkers were encouraging me to go to Hampton. So that's how I went to Hampton, and I started meeting more people. This woman that was speaking on a panel, then Brother Carlos, who was leading this Apex program, after school program that we met once every 2 weeks leading up to spring break, which is when we went on a college tour, which was like one of the best trips ever. It was like, a week tour. We were just taking the bus from New York to Atlanta, but stopping at all the schools. So we stopped at Cheney. I believe we even stopped at Lincoln. We stopped at Howard, and of course, we stopped at my home by the sea, Hampton. And once I saw the water, it's like I am a sucker, or I really enjoy, because I don't even want to say. Granted, I'm a sucker for a good view by a nice body of water, but also, I really feel closest to God when I'm near water, and I really feel relaxed. A lot of people do, but that was definitely a selling point for me. And plus, when I went there, I felt like I was my cousins were like, oh hey girl, you know what I mean? Like the student recruitment team. I literally remember. I don't remember her name, but I remember this one young lady that I unfortunately didn't stay in touch with. But if I ever see her, I would thank her for really, speaking to me and being able to, help me feel welcome on campus. But they were just they were awesome, and they felt like my cousins. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come back next year and see y'all. And then my mentor, of course, Ashley Peter. Shout out to Ashley. She was my one of my favorite teachers, Mr. Peters, my gym teacher's daughter. He was like, yeah, she went to Hampton. She could, tell you all about it. She told me all about it. She let me, go to her room, her dorm room and stuff like that. And was just so nice. And was just has been a big sister to me for 20 years now. So love her down. Love her down. All right. So yeah. So another quote, even if you're the first in your family or community to pursue a particular goal, ensure you aren't the last. If you approach your journey with purpose, you'll blaze a trail that others will not only walk, but also run on, right? So I want you to know that, listen, if you are the first person in your family to go to college, leave the door open for somebody else. Make sure that you mentor people. Make sure that you are helping the next generation. Of course, you know what I mean? Get what you need to get first and allow yourself to, succeed in school, stay focused, right? But then, don't be afraid to reach back into, your high school and, encourage them or help them if they have, needs in any way that you can. I'm not saying to wear yourself out, burn yourself out, but I am saying to make sure that you pass the baton, as they say. So yeah, so that is really a quick summary of this week's lesson about being a first generation college student at Harvard. We I didn't know about it at the time because a lot of these like kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs came out. Um, well, there was some because I got some scholarship money for it, but also I found out later, actually in 2016, because I was looking at 2016 because of this trend, and they had or they still have a group for first generation college students on Harvard's campus. So it's primarily undergrads, I believe, but yeah, they have a whole program. I was happy to meet like the founder of the program, and they have a whole like alumni circle and all of that. So, so Harvard have so I know that Harvard is not the only one that has this. So you can also look to your college or maybe a college that you're applying to. I know that sometimes you'll go to these colleges and they'll say, "Do you have any questions?" You can ask them, "Do you have a program for first generation college students or for first generation college graduates?" Because some schools, do. So I know that Harvard definitely does have that. So telling you that my first semester was hard. That was probably not probably that was definitely the lowest grades that I got going from a school that wasn't academically challenging. I loved my high school, but it wasn't academically challenging enough to meet the standards of Hampton. And it wasn't like a college preparatory school, where I wasn't used to writing papers that were as long as those that I got in Hampton. But I was thankful to be able to assess myself, right, that first semester and say, okay, there are some gaps. There are some things that I don't know as a first generation college student, as somebody who didn't go to a college preparatory school, as somebody whose school wasn't necessarily challenging. There's some gaps. So I went to tutoring during my first year of school, and they definitely helped me to bridge those gaps. So you definitely want to do that as a first generation college student, and make sure that you're getting the help that you need, because usually colleges offer that. They'll offer it, as a part of your package. Go to your teachers' office hours. Can't emphasize that enough. I used likely every one of my teachers' office hours. You want to do that even, in the beginning of the semester. Make sure that your teacher knows you. Make sure your teacher knows that you want to succeed, and ask them how can you succeed in their class. Especially, if you're new to off campus life, went to like a boarding school or anything like that, like your first time being away from home, like get the help that you need in order to be able to progress at the rate that, other people who might have, a long legacy of college graduates in their family can't progress at. So that is it for this week. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay warm for those who are in the colder cities. For those of you who are in California, no, I'm kidding. I used to live in California, so I could talk to my friends like that. But I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous. Okay, maybe a little bit. But anyhow, love y'all, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.